What's up, beautiful people? How are y'all feeling out there? How are y'all doing? I hope you guys are doing fantastically, amazingly, wonderfully, the best. Bringing a whole bunch of energy to this video today because honestly, personally, I could use it. I'm not sure how y'all are feeling. I'm just trying to ignore all the bad shit happening and just keep this party going. Because currently, I'm literally brewing the perfect recipe for a depressive episode coming into January. And obviously, we don't like that. If you are here today for the first time, of course, welcome. I'm living with bipolar disorder type 1. It's like I make it sound really exciting, and at times it is. But like, I'm not really this pumped to have it. And for the past, really, 8 months, I've been cycling up and down through hypomania. I've honestly had a fantastic year. It's probably because I was hypomanic and just doing whatever the freak I wanted to do. Use your wildest imaginations. You can see why that might be a terrible idea, especially for someone with bipolar disorder, not keeping up with a routine. So now I'm essentially paying for all of the fun that I had. And the sad thing, the very, very sad thing about this is that I think it was worth it. Now, that's only part of me. The other part is literally sitting here, looking at my other half, and being like, bro, what the fuck? Obviously, you've come to listen to me talk about how to recover from a manic or depressive episode when you have bipolar disorder. And I've rambled enough about myself, so let's talk about what I've been doing. So, number one, the first thing that I personally do whenever I'm coming out of this, again, this isn't one of my worst, it's getting it. We'll see what happens. We'll see if we crash land this year or if we just crash and burn and die. But we can't do that. So we'll see what happens. In general, regardless of what type of recovery process, how badly you've screwed over your life, how out of it you were in your episode, and how you're coming out of it now, like what the fuck. Regardless of all that, I always start with, and I think that people should start with, assessing the situation essentially. What that means is that you basically take a look around you, you see all the shit that like has gone on, you're like, damn, this is really just how I was living. For me, if I'm depressed or coming out of a depressive episode, nothing's been done. And it's like, bro, I have all these tasks that are piling up and things are crazy. And like, what the hell? Currently coming out of a hypomanic episode and typically just being more elevated, it's the same thing, plus like all these additional things that I've created for myself, additional headaches. Essentially, you're just trying to figure out, okay, what the fuck do I need to do? How do we move forward? How can I like sort of save myself in this situation? In 2018, I like had no money. I had to pay all these bills. Things got pretty bad and I had to move home to Chicago. I basically sat down, made a plan, and I was like, okay, this is what I need to do here. I need to go home so I can save money. I need to get a job. I need to like to keep on, like I just literally got a whiteboard. It's not done. This one's not done. And I just started writing down like everything that was important, whether that's paying bills, whether that's like goals of mine, like get a job, email this person or like respond to this. I just wrote everything down and I organized it. So that's number one. I feel like in an episode we either, just don't care or we have like severe anxiety about doing things. There's just all these different reasons. And at some point, typically when things get to crisis level, you kind of just have to come to terms with yourself and just like, okay, write out every single thing. Again, for me, I think a lot of that stems financially. So like writing down how much I owe banks and how much I owe credit cards and like seeing that number, I don't want to see that number. I want to ignore that number. I have so much anxiety over it and I'm trying not to think about it, even doing this video. But, writing it down and like really figuring out, okay, number one, can I do this myself? Like, how do I pay this thing off? Blah, 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 blah. All of that, you have to do it. Otherwise, like that's when shit gets really bad. Number two, along the lines of assessing what the hell went on in this episode, reaching out to people. And that can be your friends, your family. It can be to organizations. It can be to work. It can be to financial institutions. Like, I know all about it. And you don't necessarily have to tell them like, hey, I'm coming out of a manic episode where like, I didn't care about anything. Like, please forgive me. That's sort of a very subjective, very like much personal decision for you and what you think is right. But you should at least reach out to the people that you've dropped the ball on or that you have responsibilities, regardless if that's, paying a bill responsibility, that you've just dropped, neglected, haven't really been paying attention to. Reach out to them and say either, I've been going through it, I have bipolar disorder, or just say, it's been a hard time, I recognize this, but I'm trying to get better. And you can use the plans that you've create it in your assessment to kind of detail all of that out to them. Most times people are forgiving, and you don't necessarily have to have bipolar disorder, some life-altering, severe mental illness for people to be forgiving. Everyone goes through a hard time. Everybody goes through it. Like, we all go through it. And the important part, though, is reaching out and saying, like, hey, I recognize that I've dropped the ball on these things. This is my plan to recover. What do you think about this? Do you think this will work? Like, can we move forward? I recognize that I want to get better. That just sounds so much better than just not doing it at all, especially for friendships or like family. If you have been distant, or if you've been rude, or if you've been however you've been being, you know, they love you at the end of the day. Banks don't love you, but you know, family and friends, they do, and most times they're willing to work on it. So yeah, that's my second point. Ooh, when it comes to reaching out, the third point would be reach out to your support network in terms of the medical professionals. I know that like it's super hard, at least again speaking from my own experience. Number one, having not seen somebody for like ever, and there's a lot of reasons in that. Like, I've kept up with them sparingly, but I'm fine, while I'm secretly looking for somebody new who fits like the things that I want, blah, 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 blah. Details, y'all don't need to know. But, you know, when you're coming out of an episode, regardless of which one it is, you sometimes lose track of going to your medical professionals, whether that's your counselor, therapist, peer support group network, psychiatrist for your medications, all of that jazz. We just we just dropped the ball on that one. Really initiating that conversation and going back to them, and not necessarily jumping back on medication. I personally do not believe in shoving medication down people's throats. Obviously, if you're in a manic episode and you're in the emergency room and like shit like that is going on, then yes. But as I've been saying, everyone's situation is different. You know your body, you know how you feel about it, then you make that call and talk to your doctors and not me. But personally, I'm not ready to go back on medication for bipolar disorder quite yet. I'm almost there, you guys. So much further than I was this summer when I was like, nope, I'm against it. Mainly because I'm seeing how my life is now. The side effects, though, are still too much for me. I can't, after what lithium did. Peep that up there if you want to see. I can't. I have so much anxiety around it, but I'm still going to my doctors. Number one, find the right therapist, right doctor, right type of therapy for me, in like my health progression. And additionally, just making sure I'm updating my doctors on like, hey, I know it's been a long time, just wanted to check in and just kind of tell you that like, honestly, I've been feeling elevated. Now, if you don't really feel like telling your doctors that you've been secretly telling them white lies or sometimes really big lies, then you don't necessarily have to right then, but at least initiate the conversation, because at the end of the day, they are here to help us. And sharing our stories is great, and talking to each other and all that jazz is totally part of the holistic recovery process. But at the end of the day, we need a professional to kind of, you know, gaze upon that process and make sure that we're not just like telling ourselves lies. Lastly, staying present throughout all of this is super, 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 super mega important, and maybe it should be number one. No, it should definitely not be number one. Number one, you need to figure out what the fuck's going on. Regardless, this is super important, just like all of these are. Staying present is key to mentally making it through this and not having your mood become even more unstable. Currently, you know, I'm coming down. My hypomanic episodes are not as long. They're not as, I don't know, intense. There was a few times probably throughout the summer, maybe I was manic for a few days. Now that I'm comparing, you know, my elevations and how like up here I'm like now reviewing and reflecting I was. Regardless though, you know, it's super, super fragile. And I've definitely felt myself this month because of the weather changing, because of the holidays, because of a lot of personal shit, just a lot of other stuff that I can't control. I feel myself literally making like all the right moves for a depressive episode in January, which has been my life since the age of like 14, 13, except for last year. So we're trying to keep on a new streak of not having depressive episodes at all. I don't know if that's possible, but that's what we're trying to do. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm trying to say that, you know, when you're working through all of this, when you're trying to, you know, set your goals, when you're trying to figure out plans of how to salvage your life, you can't be thinking about everything else that you need to do. You need to stay present on the one task, because otherwise you're gonna freak out, have so much anxiety, and just get overwhelmed and not do any of it, and then shit's gonna get worse. How was that for like tough love? That's like my little moment with y'all, in the sense that like I'm always saying things are gonna be good, things are gonna be great, things are gonna work out, you do this, you got this, but like sometimes y'all, we need to get our shit together. And by we, I'm really just talking to myself, but like I'm hoping there's someone else out there so I don't feel as bad, to be honest. Not that I want y'all to be going through what I'm going through, but like it make me feel better. But nonetheless, I'm staying present. I'm doing this video right now and I'm talking about the ways I'm trying to better myself. All the good jazz. So staying present means focusing on that right now. After this video, you know, I'll have a little freak out and then I'll jump onto the next task on that bulletin board and just power through that task, you know. Even if I only get 3 tasks done a day, at least I'm doing like what I need to be doing, and instead of laying in this bed crying and being depressed and thinking how everything is so hard to do and that I wish I would just get hit by a bus, because I've been there. That was like 3 days ago. And obviously it's perfectly okay to have those moments. I'll probably have another one in a few days, but you know, once you have your moment, you take a day or two to kind of just be like, and then you get yourself together, cool, calm, and collected, and you proceed. Okay, I am done yelling and being theatrical at y'all today. I'm just really trying to, it's like cloudy outside, it's gloomy, it's cold. I'm trying to get pumped, you guys, so I can finish this whiteboard. If you took something away from this video, please give me a like, because that lets me know what content you guys like most. Or, you know, if that's just too simple, leave a comment. Always leave a comment just to say hey. I like to just say hey to y'all. And obviously, lastly, subscribe and turn on those subscription notifications. I basically upload videos every week and you don't want to miss out on any of those now, do you? Deuces, y'all.